All right, I was going to welcome you to a talk this afternoon. My name is Jim Connolly. I'm the director of the Center for Middletown Studies. As I said, I was going to welcome you to a talk this afternoon, but I think what we're welcoming you to is something a little more participatory than that, based on what I've seen looking over Bryn's shoulder. Bryn Marlow is our presenter this afternoon. Bryn and his husband Dave are collaborators with us on the Everyday Life in Middletown project. This is a project that Pat Collier from English has spearheaded for the last few years and has worked for the Center for Middletown Studies to collect the ordinary experiences of people in their daily lives. So Bryn has been, how should we put this, our most prolific diarist, our most creative diarist. He's really contributed a lot to the project. He's provided us with feedback. He and Dave have really helped guide the project in a lot of different ways. And so when he approached us recently and told us that he was ill and that he wanted to spend some time providing materials to us for the project and for the University Archives, as well as perhaps take a chance to talk about some of his experiences living in Delaware County and coming out in Delaware County a couple of decades ago, is that right? Mm-hmm. And so we thought that was a great idea to sort of add to the record of what life in Muncie, what life in Middletown is like. For those of you who haven't heard all about Middletown, come see me. I'll tell you all about it at a different time. But for now, I wanted to turn the floor over to Bryn and to give him an opportunity to tell us a little bit about his experience. So, Bryn, thanks.
Thank you, Jim. There are some extra ones of these floating around. Can you just keep passing them, even if you take two? Okay. I want to get those all distributed. So it's okay to double up, even if you have a photo and you want one with words, or if you have a picture or you don't have words and you want whatever. Anyway, I'd like everybody to have at least one, maybe two. So by way of telling you who I am, I'm going to tell you who I was. This is the obituary that I finished just a few days ago. Bryn Marlow, age 60, died, whatever day and date, of pancreatic cancer, something you and the next 99,991 people will most likely avoid. He wants to let on that it was the specter of another Trump-Pence victory that did him in, but this is not entirely so. Bryn was born on July 22nd, 1959, in the same hospital as Judy Garland, and always considered northern Minnesota home. Never mind, he moved to Indiana when he was 5 and spent the rest of his life as a Hoosier. He often pined for snow. A Wednesday's child, he was full of woe, yet his melancholy temperament was cross-woven with deep-seated joy and optimism. He sang and hummed incessantly. Ask his co-workers. All his life he loved books and attracted them like a magnet, or maybe spawned them in secret the way the underside of a bed calves dust balls. His face was common. People he'd never met before would swear that they knew him from somewhere, and wasn't your name Greg? While in college he fell in love with a boy at a time and in a society that made few allowances for gay alliances. He chose to deny and repress his feelings. He married a woman. Their 3 sons were young when he came out to himself and others as a gay man. Some saw his behavior as reprehensible, others as a brave choice for personal integrity. He paid a price for his decision, loss of family, friends, church, career. He met and eventually married Dave Baker, who survives him. Dave's sitting over there with the white coffee cup in him. Yeah. These 2 men shared over 24 years of life together, happier than most clams. Dave's family separated, then coalesced. Thereafter, these 2 reveled in their role as grandfathers. Bryn was intelligent, disorganized, perfectionistic, naive. He loved racing chickens. He wouldn't own a TV. He burst with potential but lacked the drive to channel it. He was creative, caring, sensitive, and thoughtful. He enjoyed writing, clown, reading, the play of light and shadow. He disliked sports and politics, never developed much of an appreciation for music. He leaves behind his husband, their children and grandchildren, his estranged sons, siblings, a bevy of nieces, nephews, and cousins, and several people who called him friend. Okay, so that by way of saying, that's who you're looking at now. Soon this pancreatic cancer thing is going to overtake me, is what I'm told. And so I'm sitting down in a high back chair, conserving my energy and thankful that right now I have a strong enough voice that you can hear me. I would like to do some audience participation, so I've passed out, as you know, either a drawing of no great artistic merit or some words on a piece of paper. If we practice this right now, if I use the words societal voices, if you have one of those cards that says societal voices, I'd like you just to start shouting out the words that are on there. So if right now I say societal voices,
Dirty people.
dirty. Thank you. Ah, very good. That works fine. Or if I said, who is it? Voice of family of origin.
You're not welcome under our
I
roof.
never want to see you or talk to you again.
Ah, okay. All right. And so, thank you. That's the one that says specifically family of origin, and then this was one that specifically says kids. So keep those as two separates. Okay? Very good. That's exactly the idea. Okay. And if you have a picture, you get another set of instructions altogether. So the title of the talk is How Not to Come Out as a Gay Man in Delaware County. I was like the flag-waving poster child for everything you should not do. These are the hard-won lessons of my life. Yeah. Plus, it's a humorous way to say it. So I want to go through 8 lessons, and that's what these pictures are. So when I ask you for the picture, whoever has the one that is labeled different, if you would just wave that around in the air, let's have a look at it, and then come up and set it here on this. Set it here on this board, and try not to get it try and get it so it'll stay. Okay. Okay. So different. We'll start with that. The first one. Can we see what it looks like? Very good. Yeah. If you'll lay it back there. See, if I ask you to lay it back, then I don't have to try to. If it falls, then you can be responsible for coming back. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so number one way not to come out is, first thing, know from a young age that you are different and have no idea how or why you're different than everyone else. So that's number one thing. And number 2 lesson in how not to come out is dealing with trust. Who's got the trust card? Oh, very good. Would you bring trust up here? Let us see what it looks like. I checked these out with Dave to see if the drawings made any sense. I don't claim to be a grand artist. Okay, so number 2 lesson, do not trust yourself. This is how not to come out. Don't trust yourself. Trust authority. Trust God. Trust the church. Trust your parents. Trust your teachers. Trust your best friend. But don't trust yourself. I remember my mother quoting that verse, the heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. Who can trust it? Yeah, very much. Don't trust yourself. Makes it hard to come out as a gay man. But there you go, if that's what we're after. Okay, number 3, the one that talks about denial. Aha, thank you. Great, thanks. So pack your bag full of coping strategies like these. Repress, deny, suppress, compartmentalize, do good, do as you're told. All that stuff. Oh, that was so strong in my family. Denial. My dad had prostate cancer that went all through his body, metastasized throughout. He and my mom colluded with each other so that when he came into the hospital 2 weeks before he died, my mom was shocked to hear the doctor say, "Listen, Marlow, your husband is dying of cancer. I don't have to run any tests. I can take one look at him." And she was like, "No, don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." She was so angry at the doctor, but denial was so big in my family. Bury your head in the sand. If you don't admit that it's there, it's not there. Okay, number 4 lesson on how not to come out. On the deep end. Going over the deep end. Very good. I imagine that this is me, like how to get into the water. Just and down I go. And then only afterward, oh, there's sharks in this water. That kind of thing. Don't do any preparation. Just go running pell-mell off the deep end. How not to come out in Delaware County. Okay, that's what I did. No preparation, totally naive. So run off the deep end, dive in screaming, belly flop, hope for the best. Number 5 lesson, how not to come out. Always love. Who's got that one?
Love forever.
Oh, love forever. Sure. Thank you for transposing my thoughts. Love forever. Thank you. Yes, believe. This is how not to come out in Delaware County. Believe that love is forever. Whether your parents love you and they'll love you forever. Your spouse will love you forever. You made that commitment, that vow, right? Your kids. My gosh, how can they not love their parent forever? Your family of origin. All these people are going to love you forever. Wealth. That's what I thought. And then I was so shocked to find out that those things that I in my heart of heart that I knew were true. It's not necessarily so. People are human, and part of being human is that we're fallible. Part of it is that we don't do loving all that well sometimes. Okay, so that's a hard one. Number 6, the idea of holding on to ideas. Very good. Believe that people are open and receptive to new information, ready to re-examine long-held beliefs, ideas, and to change. Yes. Even when I say that out loud, I think, how stupid is that? But that's where I was. That's what I believed. I thought, once I knew that I was a gay man, I thought, oh, aha, look at that. I had no clue. I could never put those things together. Suddenly, it was the light bulb went off in my head. All I have to do is tell my wife, explain that this is how things are, and she'll say, oh, thank you for that piece of information. That was not her response. I also thought that if I went to the judge and said, Judge, look, this is what it is. Gay people are not really corrupt criminals, reprobates of society, dredge of whatever, that the judge would say, oh yeah, no, of course not. That's not how it works. Anyway, people do not let go of tightly held ideas easily. And there are enough societal voices,
sinners, reprobates, anathema.
Thank you, in our heads, that these ideas dig deep. Number 7, justice. Believe that the justice system is about the business of dispensing, well, justice. That's what I thought when I came out in Delaware County. I thought that somehow, and how was I that blind too? I'm not a person of color. Maybe that's one way that I was that blind. I had never had a run-in with the law before. I thought the justice system was about dispensing justice. Not so much. Okay, and number 8, and the last one, alone. How not to come out in Delaware County? Believe that you are alone. When I came out, I thought I was not only alone in Delaware County, I thought I was the only gay man in Indiana. I knew there were gay men in New York and in San Francisco, but I thought there was a great wash in between, like I was it. The World Wide Web was just coming online at that time, and a friend who was savvy with that got a hold of me and said, no, there's a gay group that meets in Anderson over at the university. So I trudged over to Anderson to join up with this gay group. It was all lesbians. I thought, I'm still the only gay man in Indiana. I was sure I was that alone. Anyway, then I find out otherwise, and now my ears are open to LGBT people in history, and I'm thinking, oh, come on. No, there's a great wealth, and it would have been so much comfort to me had I known, had I opened my eyes to that idea. But okay, so that was my starting point. 8 ways not to come out as a gay man in Indiana. So the story of my coming out was, here was this man at 35, midlife, working as university editor up the road here at Taylor University, Christ-centered liberal arts college, working in publications, married, 3 children. Suddenly, boom, out of the blue comes out, hey, I'm gay, gotta go chase my hedonistic life, see ya later, bye. That was one story, and that was the story that a whole lot of people reacted to. The flip side of that story was, here was this man at age 35 who finally says, walking down, my brother-in-law got married, and I was asked to be an usher in the wedding. The guy who was walking beside me helping co-usher had such a cute butt, and tight pants, and I was following up and down the aisle, and it was not hard to just slow my group down so I could follow him up and down the aisles. And after the wedding, I thought, egads, I do not want to go through the rest of my life living this way. I don't want these sinful attractions that have plagued me my entire life. Something's got to change. Something's got to give. I can't continue to do this. I'd grown up in a Christian home, knew that this was all wrong, etc., etc., etc. No way one could be gay and Christian. So I wrote that right off the book. That cannot be. And yeah, I still have these. So what I do is say, okay, God, this is it. I'm going to give you 1 year. Here's my ultimatum. Either you cure me, take these thoughts away from me, or I'm going to take care of the thing myself. I'm going to kill myself at the end of this year, and that will get rid of this. Because I know this is not holy, this is not acceptable, etc. And I can be very stubborn. That also runs in our family, and maybe that was one of the things that helped me in coming out. But I was like, this is it, God, here it is. And I wrote up a contract, he didn't sign it, but I did, that said, I'm going to pray every day, I will not masturbate, I will not entertain lustful thoughts, and several other things, down to wearing a special garment underneath my clothing that would remind me, it wasn't a hair shirt, but was my substitute for that. Anyway, to say, this, I'm serious, God, this is it. As the year ticked on, I started getting my my suicide plan together and came up with something that would work. Made sure, tested it out so that I wasn't playing around with this. It was going to work. Because these feelings were still there, were there, and they were not leaving, and I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I'm working at Taylor, this Christian college. It was running from Easter to Easter. I had chosen the high holy days of the Christian year as my guide marks for God. And right before Easter, that year that it was all up, this revival broke out on Taylor campus. People were going up front in the chapel and announcing publicly, confessing to their heinous sins. So everybody else, of course, was all ears, listening so that we could support our Christian brothers and sisters. A little tongue-in-cheek when I say that, but not so much. So I'm, being a drama queen, I thought, okay, hallelujah, this is how, God's not just going to cure me. He's sending this whole revival to Sweet Campus, and it's going to come swirling around my head like that, and all these thoughts are going to be taken from me, etc. So I was ready for all that to happen when I went forward to the altar and prayed. And guess what? It did not happen. And I walked away from that saying, oh, well then, here we are. And that's it, God. Thanks so much. It's been a nice ride. So I wrote out my suicide note to my kids, said goodbye to them, said goodbye to my wife. I think that's the note you found this morning, going through papers. So I never did deliver it to him. But that's where I was. I was that close. What also was happening at that same time in my life was the onset of the World Wide Web, of all things. Nobody at Taylor had much, across the departments, especially in our fundraising publications department, we didn't have much knowledge of the World Wide Web. So they said, Bryn, you know how to use a computer. Find out, what should we do with this thing? Do we want to be a part of it? And so Taylor was interested in Christianity Online, had a presence. They were going to allow us to link in with them. And so I got to understand what was going on with Christianity Online. What is this? What are message boards? What are these, all this new stuff I was learning about the web? Well, one of the four of the message boards that they had were dedicated to the idea that one can be gay and Christian. Or people saying, no, you can't be gay and Christian. And I was like, what? You're not even allowed to use those two words in the same sentence and have it make sense. Because those are mutually exclusive terms. And so I started reading, and I read all these stories. Talk about the power of story. Oh my gosh. I read all these stories of gay people saying, here's what it's been like for me. This is what my life has been like. And I was reading my stories. I was not reading their stories, I was reading mine. And I thought, oh, dear God, you don't have that much of a sense of humor. That here I'm saying, thou must do this for me, and instead what God is going to say instead is, no, you're okay, carry on. I was like, that, it can't be. And yet here it was. And so then I started getting brave enough to actually try that out on myself. To say, what if I call myself gay? Can I do that? Well, bing, 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 bing. Talk about the light bulb going off. Suddenly, oh, that's why I've been attracted to men all my life. Oh my gosh, that makes sense. That's why women never were hold that much fascination for me. That's why all these things suddenly make sense. Bing, bing, bing. Lights go off. Boom, boom, boom. Flash bulbs. And so, so then surely, oh, Connie, do you understand now why our marriage has been so troubled? Do you understand why we've had so much trouble? No. No, she didn't understand. Okay. But anyway, that's part of the backstory for what was going on with me, which is a much different story than what people hear what they want to hear. People see what they want to see. So I tell my wife, I am gay. The voice of the spouse says,
liar, betrayer, sham.
Yeah, and she was justified in saying all that, right? Here's this man comes out to you, you think you know him as well as anything, you promise your life to him, and he tells you he's gay. And then he tells you he wants to stay in the marriage. And then he tells you he doesn't want a divorce. So she says, well, all right then, but I'm not going to stay married to a gay man. You've got to change. So we went to see a reparative therapist, found a man who claimed to have success in turning people from gay to straight. We went through marriage counseling. Part of the agreement was I would use my best friend as accountability partner, and every day check in with him and saying, here, I'm not thinking any lustful thoughts, I'm not making any contact with gay people, etc. We tried so hard that summer, for a summer to try and keep things together, and it became untenable for her. Things just escalated. Anyway, in the end, but that's where she was. So she goes, what do you do as a Christian? You go to your preacher then, and you say, preacher. My preacher was cut from the old school cloth. He was on vacation in Texas, rang me out on the phone for 2 hours. That was when we still had long distance, his bill. 2 hours telling me, do you not know God made men with a penis? He made your wife with a vagina. What do you think those are for? He was giving me the science lesson. He was giving me the religious lesson. God is going to send you to hell, etc., etc., etc. And all this because I love you. You're like a son to me. And I was the lay leader in our local United Methodist Church. So I was preaching whenever he was not there. And he and I were close, had been close. Anyway, so the pastor calls the church council together. Okay, we're going to have this council. We're going to call you in front of us, and we're going to set you to rights. My parents hear about that, and they come down. By then, they've gotten a letter from me saying, Mom and Dad, let me tell you what's going on with Connie and me. So they come down because they agree that I need to go before the church council and be reprimanded because this is God's way, etc. But they love me, but. My sister came down at the same time, who's arriving tonight, even like in the next hour at our house. So she has changed, but she drove down, or came up from Missouri anyway, to have demons cast out of me because she was convinced of that. My brother, who was then going to Ball State, was convinced I was deceived of Satan. My other brother believes I'm a bat out of hell, and I'm going to die soon, and we are still estranged over that idea because I have black wings, or something like that. Okay, so my family of origins, the voice of my family of origin.
You're not welcome under our roof.
Mm-hmm. And how? Yeah, very much. So the church meets in council, and the voice of the church, organized religion?
Go straight or go to hell.
Yeah, we will pay, these dear friends and neighbors and friends in the church said, we will pay to send you to a boot camp to turn you straight. But if you do not, we will follow the injunction in 2 Timothy, we will bind your soul and turn you over to Satan. So your soul will be cast into hell. So, and by the way, you have 3 days and let us know your decision, because that's all it took Christ to come out of the tomb. That's all you need to come out of homosexuality. I'm sad when I walked away from these people. I said, I don't need 3 days. That's not how it works. That's not how it's going to happen. So since all my friends and neighbors were in the church, the voice of my friends and neighbors,
We want nothing to do with you.
yeah, and they were ordered that by the church, by the pastor too, then, we're going to shun this man. This is how we show Christian love. You have nothing more to do with him. So, bing, there goes all the sources of support. Except for my best friend, of course, who I was in accountability partner with. But when he gets the message that, you told what? You said to the church, what? You're not going to go to that boot camp? Yeah, so my best friend, voice of my best friend.
The best thing you can do for your kids, kill yourself.
Yeah, that's his advice. Get yourself out of their life altogether. Just do the right thing by your kids. Kill yourself. And then, when I did not take his thing to heart, he decides to go to the president of the university and say, did you know you have a gay man on your staff? Thankfully, for the integrity of that president then serving, said, don't say any more, I don't want to hear any more, don't give any names. So the president turned him down, but there were other people who were eager to listen. And so it was not long before I was called into the provost's office. And the voice of the employer,
Your services are no longer required. Leave quickly and quietly.
yep, and we'll fill out your contract year if you go now, if you don't raise a stink. So, okay, so the last remaining bastion of friends that I had were among the people at my job. They quit talking to me, and I was out the door. Yeah, so in the end, this goes to the court system. The judge says from the bench, listening to this trial case, homosexuality turns my stomach. I never want to know that happens to your children. I think, what? From the bench? You can say that? You're the impartial judge who's listening to my situation? In the end, she issued a hearing that says what? The voice of the court system?
You're ordered not to expose your children to any person, place, or event sponsored by the homosexual lifestyle.
Person, place, or event sponsored by the homosexual lifestyle. I asked my lawyer, what does that mean? He says that means whenever you have your kids in the car and you have the radio on, you have your hands on the dial. So if a gay news story comes on, you flip it off so that you can't be told that you can't be in violation of the court statute then, that you are not allowed to expose your kids to anything dealing or sponsored by or promoting the homosexual lifestyle. Can their mother read them or have them listen to tapes from James Dobson on how gays are going to hell? Oh yeah. Can my children come and say, Dad, you are doomed to hell, and let me tell you why, and they can read me. They're welcome to talk about it. On that side, she had no such restriction. Anyway, that was for me. That was the voice of the courts. And all the time, these voices, societal voices playing in my head.
Reprobate.
Disgust.
Afraid, love,
Sinner.
evil, sick, criminal.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, all that's going on. Okay. Take a deep breath. Okay. I have some things I want to say, and it's easier. I'm a writer as well, so I'm going to read you a couple of written pieces that allow me to be more succinct than what I might otherwise do nattering on. So here we go. This is called A Certain Difficult Repentance. Comes from a poem by D.H. Lawrence entitled Healing, a snippet of which: wounds to the soul take a long, long time. Only time can help. Time and patience, and a certain difficult repentance, long, difficult repentance, realization of life's mistake, and the freeing of oneself from the endless repetition of the mistake. Again this morning I wake up, unsure if I have 7 cocks or 8. I do know my favorite one sits even now in this plastic dog crate by the barn. Hayes Sullivan blinks dark brown eyes, such a gorgeous bird. Pecan, sandy neck, emblazoned with the chocolate starburst, jet black sheen to his feathers, green bottle-fly reflections. Saddle feathers dusted with caramel, tips penciled in brass. 6-pointed shocked red comb, matching red wattles. Again he blinks those dark glistening eyes. I focus my attention there, looking for some reason to silence the voices in my head that tell me to lop off his. Please, let me keep this cock. This spring, as a young chick, Hayes Sullivan kept pace with his 6 brothers. They dashed about the yard, scratched for bugs and seeds, soon hit their strides as sex-hungry roosters, all except Hayes Sullivan. His legs grew misshapen, his gait unsteady. He often sits about, oblivious to the hens within reach. He has a rare condition called osteopetrosis, or thick bone disease. No wonder his brothers outdistanced him when it came to who could catch which hen for a quickie. I could empathize. Even as a young boy, I knew I was different. Mom, something presses me from the inside. It feels like it's never going to go away, no matter what I do. Like it's going to be there forever and ever. Even if I die, I won't escape it. What could she say? She patted my hand, sang me the old rugged cross, In the Garden. My mother was the most important person in my world, even more important than Jesus, and that was saying something. Our family attended church nearly every time they'd let us in. Maybe this saved me. It gave me a place that I could fit in and feel acceptable. I took on the role of the good little church boy for all I was worth. In high school, many of my male classmates took after girls, like roosters after hens. This mystified me. I wasn't interested in girls. When it came to sex, I was as hapless as Hayes Sullivan. As a junior in college, I studied a semester abroad in Britain. The term ended and the college closed the day before I was to leave. I needed a place to sleep for one night. The housekeeper for my dormitory told me I could stay with her. Jean was 26. I was 20. She made up the couch in her drawing room. I was already in bed when she came into the room. Are you comfortable? I assured her I was. Is there anything you need? Oh no, everything's lovely, thank you. I was ready to go to sleep. It seemed she wanted to talk. So we talked. She asked me about my life in the States, about my family, about my girlfriend. What girlfriend? Oh, I'm sorry, love, but a strapping lad like you won't be long between girlfriends. You've done the deed with all sorts of girls, I don't doubt. No, I said, I never. She covered her mouth. You mean to say you're a virgin? I assured her I was. She exhaled deeply. Soon our talk turned to religion, theology, my future plans. Then came a loud knock on the door. Jean opened it, and in burst a dark, red-faced man, little taller and stouter than she, her boyfriend Jack. A row ensued. Jack accused her of having an American in her bed, and intentions. I slid down in the couch as far as I could, pulled the covers up over my nose as he clenched his fist. Jack, no! He's only a boy! What, he's never been with a girl in his life! He's going to be a clergyman someday! They argued a while before Jack stormed out. Later that summer, I recounted this incident to a French friend of mine. He swore that Jean did indeed have designs upon my body. I refused to believe it. Sex did not happen in my world. It does now. Our chicken yard serves as case in point. 7 roosters have proved too much for our 22 hens. Those on the low end of the pecking order are being run ragged. I know what needs to be done, but I don't like the doing, so I put it off. No longer. This morning, I sharpened the axe. Until a few minutes ago, Hayes Sullivan's brothers were living, breathing creatures. Now their dismembered bodies float in a large basin of cold water underneath the peach tree. A smaller bowl holds livers, gizzards, hearts. This battered old trash can, feathered skins, stringy guts. bloody heads crawling with hornets and flies. Give that trash can legs, and you'll have a picture of how I once saw myself. I grew up bombarded with messages from family, church, school, media. You're sick, evil, unacceptable, you worthless bucket of crap. I didn't know then I was gay, but I believed I was worthless, deep down repulsive. So I went numb. I cut myself off from my feelings, cut off my sexual attraction, took an axe and cut off my own cock, metaphorically speaking. Let me be clear, I realize I do have a penis. In fact, it's rather lovely if one goes in for such things. In certain circles, it excites admiration and envy. But for me, it's almost as if it does not exist. This was once a survival tact. Without a penis, I did not have to know what I was missing. I repressed and denied sexual longing. Without a penis, I could imagine that my life someday might have value, if only I did the right things, married the right woman, followed the rules. Yes, I said, with nothing between my legs. Yes, dear. Yes, mother. Yes, preacher. Yes, sir. Yes, boss. Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes. I watched Hayes Sullivan say yes this summer. His brothers, anxious for sexual release, turned to him when the older hens proved less than accommodating. Unable to stand for long periods, Hayes Sullivan spends most of his time in the down position, the submissive stance that signals, take me, use me, I'm yours. And they did, his brothers. They mounted him regularly. I never saw him protest. Was his strategy same as mine? I was bullied in school for years, never put up a fight. Perhaps it's understandable, this satisfaction I feel in seeing whose heads decorate the bottom of this barrel. But what happens to Hayes Sullivan when the next wave of young roosters comes along? Will he ever say no? Even if he does, what will change? I hit middle age before I said no. I may have had no cock, but I did have the balls to come out in 1995 to myself and others as a gay man. Everything changed for me, and nothing changed. We'll pass a man on the street nowadays, and my husband will say, nice basket. Chances are I didn't notice. The man could have been wearing Batman underwear over his trousers for all I know. I can't even do gay right. Some messages lodge bone deep. Some conditions resist change. I see this in Hayes Sullivan. How does he manage? I lift him from the crate. Can I find guidance in his eyes? I want to. I want to keep him on as a pet, protect him, make his life easy. And yet, this hard fact of farm economy remains. He eats and therefore must contribute something. He'll never lay eggs. He'll never sire offspring. What has he to offer but his flesh? He's good for nothing but the table. Voices in my head call for his. This brings me up short. For years I listened to the voices of others, did as I was told, and it sapped the life out of me. Surely I'm entitled to have a cock if I want one. This cock, this gorgeous, beautiful bird. I walk about the pasture, cradling Hayes Sullivan in my arms. I stroke his feathers, caress his poor, misshapen feet. We pass the stump that serves as chopping block. Keep walking. I know, it's a small thing, the death of a chicken. Or maybe not. All around me, the small contains the large. In the acorn, a gnarled oak. In a grandchild newborn, boundless hope. In one small decision for life, a pattern for living. Perhaps in claiming the cock of the feathered variety, I can move toward reclaiming a part of my own self. Perhaps I can create a new economy, reap a harvest of redemption, atonement, erotic joy. We pass the peach tree, where the broken-handled axe lays against the stump. Suddenly, Hayes Sullivan struggles, calls out, bites my arm, hard. It hurts. My anger speaks with the voice of the childhood bully. Why, you little chicken, you! You ungrateful animal! I finger the axe. Is this really what I want? Again, he struggles, turns about in my hands. I grab him by his deformed legs. You're twisted, not right, good for nothing, better off dead. Time collapses. The bully shoves the chicken up against the wall. You little queer, you weirdo. Jeezo, you deserve everything you're gonna get. A part of me steps back, outside my body, watches as first the axe falls, then the head. A pause, beating of wings. No, no, no. But yes, yes. Blood spurts, spatters ground, stump, wings, jeans, hands. And Hayes Sullivan, dark, opalescent eyes, closed one last time. I think for me, the most egregious thing about coming out in the way that I did is that the message, the voice of the bully lives on in here. The voice of those people who had all the wrong things to say and said them loud continue to speak with an amplified voice. I was hoping that by the time I reached the end of life, that would be gone. Ding, 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 ding. Didn't happen. And I'm sad about that. I'm sorry about that. And I am so overwhelmed. Anybody who's helping tell the stories of LGBT people coming out in Delaware County, anybody who helps provide understanding, who says, your story is important, what you have gone through matters, what you're going through now matters. Oh my gosh, that's the kind of world I want to live in. That's the kind of world I want to live to my children, leave to my grandchildren, leave to the generation that's coming. Okay, with that, thank you. Thank you.
You want to take a couple questions?
We have time for questions, yeah, for a couple questions if there is, or comments. Pat.
You want to talk a little bit about going off the deep end?
Sure.
He said with some trepidation.
Oh, for my deep end, oh my gosh, my deep end is so tame though, right? For me, the going off the deep end is running pell-mell into this gay life that I had no idea that anybody would be there to catch me, that there would be any sense of support. I came out to myself, it was all academic, all done up in my head. No sexual encounter. Serge, bless him, who's coming to say goodbye to me next weekend. He's coming from France, the first man I ever fell in love with, who I met when I was a junior in college and studied over and we worked together in England. Anyway, first man I ever fell in love with, and that was, I ran from that, came back as a senior to Taylor, said I've got to get married, wound up marrying my wife. That was the last person I had sex with, and then my wife. But I came out then with no experience except those long ago memories of Serge as a gay man. So I was doing this, putting this all together in my head. So that's part of my going off the deep end, was just saying, I'm convinced, I don't need any other experience. As far as sexual experience, so I was so naive, so scared, so whatever, so introverted, so everything that I am, so conflicted, that I could just like ball up in myself and say, well, if I am the only gay person, that's it, that's my fate, I'm gonna make it, and I'll hang out with these lesbians for a while. The Gestalt couple who ran that Bible study said, no, we know some gay supportive people. We know some gay people and some gay supportive people. So they threw a dinner party for me to say, you are not the only gay person in Indiana, we'll prove it to you. And they got 7 men around the table, one of whom happened to be Dave, who was about 6 months behind me in my coming out. So these men listened to me tell my story, offered their support. Dave was the one who said, you want to go out for a Coke sometime? Neither of us drink soft drinks, but we went out for iced tea. Eventually got together, formed this survival pact. So my going over the deep end was, part of it was saying, okay, Dave asked me, can we form a survival pact that neither one of us will kill ourselves until you let the other one know first. He was hospice chaplain over at the hospital here at Ball, so he knew a thing or two about this. I said, no, I have paid such a price to get to this very place that I am right now. Everybody is against me. Nobody loves me. Nobody, whatever the song goes, guess I'll go, you weren't. But no, the one power that I have left to myself is the power over whether I continue to live or not. And I'm not going to give that away to anybody. Not to you for any caring person, not to anybody else for a caring reason. That's the one thing that I can hang on to. And so that was part of my going over the deep end was, I'm going to go float in this little boat by myself, and my one life preserver is really the anchor that I'm going to tie around my neck and drown myself with or something. I mean, it sounds stupid. It sounds like a crazy way to do it. And now it would tell people, find out what resources are available. Don't just dash off. There are support systems. It's not, we're not in this all together by ourselves, not alone. And thank goodness for the web too is at our fingertips now. It's just both a blessing and a curse, but a source of support as well. Encouragement. Okay. Sure.
Did you find that as the old community, as in the church and your neighbors and that kind of left you, that the new community that you found yourself a part of, did they kind of help fill that?
They did. I did not know I did not know at the time, yeah, I knew so little. I found, and I was so connected with the church. So my first connections were with this Bible study group in Anderson, and then there's a church in Indianapolis that I knew catered to the gay community. And so I went down there, met some people who wanted to take advantage of me, met some people who said, Bryn, you're in such a fresh stage right now. We're coming around you to protect you and love you. The word has gone out now that I don't have long to live. Two of these men, they've been together 28 years or so. They're both in their 80s now. We had dinner with them at Thai Smile earlier this week. Bless them. I mean, those forged connections, those people that came around me at that time. My mom could say, "Oh, you're just calling up your friends," and friends with that kind of a swiggly voice tone to it, or but yeah, Mom, who am I going to call up? These people who, sorry, can't talk to you. Sorry, I've been ordered. Sorry, I don't want anything to do with you. I'm not going to call those people up. Yeah, so I did find supportive people. I found wonderfully supportive people, people who have continued to nurture and care and love for me. And I am, yeah, those people that I connected with, like Sarah, so this friend from long ago, from junior in college, who's coming over now to bid me goodbye. We have remained friends. We've been vacationing together for several summers now. Bless him. Anyway, yeah, so the connection there. One of the first men that I connected with coming out, they're coming in a couple weeks to see me. These are long-lasting connections, and yes, I have found a great deal of, I think people who have gone through hard times understand what that is and can reach out and empathize in ways, and are willing to do so in ways that other people just cannot do emotionally, or in other ways can't offer that same level of support. And bless communities that have been through the forge, yeah, because that can happen. And it doesn't happen for everybody, and it doesn't happen to every person. Not everybody has my best interest in mind. But it does.
So we talked about this a few minutes before you started. The fact that your experience is both Midwestern and kind of rural,
Yes.
is one of the things that kind of makes your story more, it's not sort of the stereotypical sort of coming out story.
Right.
And I wonder, like, what you think might have been particular just about, like, kind of, not, I mean, where you grew up specifically, but also the fact that, you didn't grow up in a city, you didn't even grow up in a town, really, right? Can you talk about that?
Right. I think that maybe we rural folks are a different breed, and I'm not sure how that happens. But my life is in the country. My life is nurtured. I love chickens, and we do our best to keep the coyotes off of them. But to have, I mean, that's a big source of my nurturance and my support that I find, is living in a rural setting, surrounded by trees that remind me of Minnesota, surrounded by wildlife, deer, coyotes, the whole gamut, fox. The sense of quiet and peace that I don't get energy by being around big groups of people or lots of movement and activity, the kind of thing that my twin sons, Jacob said, I want to grow up and live in the country, and Isaac was like, nah, he's at 3 years old, 4 years old, I'm going to grow up and live in the city, I want the downtown. I was like, what? Even at age 3, these kids are like wildly different. But for me, so the rural thing is deeply bred, and people were saying, no, you got to move to the West Coast or move to the East Coast. Get out of Indiana. What are you doing there? Can't you see what's happening? I was like, don't tell me that the only place I can live is if I move to the big city on one of the coasts, because I don't buy that. That's not going to be life for me. My life is rooted in this ruralness, in this, I love that there's cornfields and bean fields and trees and deer in the backyard, and yeah, and that speaks to me, and the quietness, the no lights at night, where I can actually see stars. Yeah, all that. And I think for me, yeah, but then I don't have the big city connections, and I don't know where the places are, and I don't know the folks, and I don't rub shoulders with a whole passel of people, and so instead it's a very select group. So my roots have to go deeper somehow, maybe. I have to find a few places that a few people who understand rural life and can support me in that, and I have to find a few, like of the deep touchstones or the deep wells in rural living that nurture me, so that I can sink and suck up moisture and nurturance from those kinds of things. But for me, who's very much dyed in the wool rural, it would be so disruptive and such a disservice to me to say the only way I can survive is move to the city. There may be less overt prejudice, there may be, but oh my gosh, yes, and that too, our house our poor house. We went through a spate of maybe 5-7 years where somebody on our road, I'm sure, was targeting us. Our mailbox was smashed. The house was egged. They kept coming back and back and back and back for that poor mailbox. And they, so then I made it so that I could take the mailbox off at night, just leave the post out there and take the mailbox in. Well, that pissed somebody off. Because I went out there and there was this white pickup truck, big monster truck, ramming the mailbox post. So he knocked it loose, thinking. So then I put the mailbox post and I took the post and the mailbox in-house every night. And that did not please him either. So then things like, during the anthrax scare, we had bags of white, quote-unquote, anthrax scattered around in the yard and on the front rail post and stuff. We had, it culminated, like the things kept going up. It's like, if you're not going to let me get to your mailbox, I'm going to do these other things. The last thing he did was set fire to the front porch. And I just kept calling the police, saying every time one of these incidents happened, they were like, oh, it's Halloween. Well, that worked the first time because it was within a couple of weeks of Halloween, but then it continued and went over for 7 years, something like that. Anyway, so I had them document every time something happened in this rural setting because I was like, this is going to escalate eventually. I want at least that there's a track record that this was not a one-off thing. But that's scary, and I don't carry guns. I'm not ready to do that. Bless who may have been a family member on the Muncie police force. One of the police who came a policewoman said, you guys need to go get mace. You need to go, and she gave us some tips to say, here's what you need to do to protect yourself. It was like she could key in on what was happening and could understand, could speak our language. But our neighborhood, the rural neighborhood in Indiana is not a warm, welcoming, inviting place. Has not been. Now, in the last few years, it has toned down considerably, where this year the house was only egged once, I think. We were isolated out in the country. Every time a car slows down, this is what I fear. You know, if someone's raising the rifle and they're slowing down because Dave and I are walking out in the yard together. So for many years, we would drop hands and separate. We went, lately, I've started saying, forget it. I'm going to continue to hold hands, even when the car drives by going slow. And maybe I'm being foolish with that, maybe risky, but that's my fear, is that those kinds of things happen and do happen, have happened in Muncie, do happen in rural settings too. Yeah. Huh. I wish it was it's all a cheery life. And it's not all cheery.
Well, I guess one anecdote. I remember I was in San Francisco, and there was a couple. I'm also gay. I came out a couple years ago, but a couple were kissing, and then people next to me on the BART like had their hands down. They're like going like this, sort of like. So it's like the idea is that like that sort of threat is always sort of evident. As you were talking, it made me think of Will Fellow's book. It's called Farm Boys.
Yes.
About sort of like rural queerness. And I got really emotional when you were talking about like seeing yourself on the online sort of like database, like the sort of discussion boards. And I want to think about like, it seems like you're also creating a story tapestry for others to see like rural queerness and its viability and its flourishing. And I so appreciate like the story you read and other things. And I wonder like what other stories or what other sort of like cultural things are you doing? Like, can we all sort of like read and share, you know, with others?
Yeah. The an outlet for me has been the Everyday Life in Middletown project that Pat and Jim are working with. That has given me and I don't know. Anyway, you'll find out from them maybe what that is. But it's given me an opportunity to write about what's going on in my everyday life. Now suddenly, when I'm facing a short life expectancy, my thought was, what am I going to do? I have a long shelf, probably 12 feet long, of handwritten diaries that I took during the coming out process. All this stuff that I was trying to process, trying to get it down. I said to myself, I am paying such a high price for this. I don't want to lose it. And so I wrote that down, and that's not, I tried to go back and put that into some kind of memoir form, but it's too radioactive for me. The emotion is way too hot for me to handle, so I haven't been able to do. So now I'm dead, all this stuff off to the trash. So I contacted these men and said, could this somehow fit into the EDLM, Everyday Life or Everyday Life in Middletown archives? Could this somehow tell the story of at least one gay man's journey through this unique period in time and unique set of circumstances and things that happen. So my hope is that through the Ball State Archives and through the EDLM project, that some of that will continue to find a voice or find a way, and that would be a place to access my particular story, my particular writings. Yeah, and thank you for I think Will Fellows was the first date that Dave and I went on, or it was one of those where I first found myself falling in love with him. Will Fellows was giving a reading at IU Bloomington when Farm Boys he was promoting Farm Boys, and we drove down together, and we were driving through Bloomington, and Dave, who is this ordained minister, chaplain with hospice, every church we go by, on the door it says, all are welcome, all are welcome, all are welcome. Every time we go by one of those, he just gets more and more angry as we're driving to this thing. And I'm thinking, look at that. This guy understands, and he can give voice to how hypocritical this is, that kind of thing. So Will Fellows sticks in my head as a special memory of our time together and when I first saw that. Yeah. Very good. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Yeah.